Welcome to the Tamworth FC Social, a podcast all about Tamworth Football Club. Well, it was a day to forget for the Lambs at Barnet. I'm joined by Brett and Graham to discuss the 7-0 defeat. Let's get straight into it then, chaps. I will start as I took one for the team, so to speak, and witnessed it in person. Very strange game in some ways, because I think Tamworth responded really well to going 1-0 down and played some good football on the floor. Had a chance, the keeper saved, and then it sort of, the floodgates opened after that, it felt like. Chris Ray hit the post at the end of the first half, but I think as soon as Barnet went 2-0 up, you never really felt like Tamworth were going to get back into the game. And my main takeaway really was there was probably too much long ball for me, taking the match as a whole. I suppose on the plus side as well, the players did come over to the away fans at the end of the game, and I saw them having a quick chat and like shaking hands and things. Graham, you followed the game from home, didn't you? What do you think, having had a day or two to reflect?
Yeah, it's a weird one because in some ways we didn't play as badly as what we did against York. In a way, I thought York were more dominant. We certainly had a better first half against Barnet than we did against York. And it's weird for me to say that, even though we were 3-0 down. But we did have a spell within that first half where we did look fairly decent. We were actually playing it on the floor, and it was quite refreshing to see that, really. But I mean, yeah, I feel like it was a combination of Barnet were extremely good, and we just couldn't match them in any level or really any position. To be perfectly honest, they were a step above us, and the kind of full time, part time things shown, just tactically and ability wise, they were streets ahead. But we shouldn't be losing 7-0, definitely not. So I think we probably should have been a bit more resilient in the second half and shut shop up a little bit more. I'm not really sure what happened there. But, I suppose you've got to give credit to Barnet. They look a decent side, and you can see why they're favourites to go up. But we've probably got to go back to the drawing board a little bit after that one, when we're going to be playing teams that are of that level. We need to know, well, we need to have a kind of clear sort of plan B of how we go about our business, really.
What about you, Brett? How do you feel now?
I'm not really sure what to say about it, really. Am I surprised? No. Did I see it coming? I know I said we win 1-0, but it was one of those games where I could have seen us nicking something. But then equally, have we been really, really reassuring, really resolute in our games up until now? No. So, like Graham said, we should have shut shop up at half time. The damage was done by that point. Now we're looking at a goal difference of -9. That's another point, essentially, that we've got to get from somewhere now. Bad day. And we were always going to have them, and it's probably not, unfortunately, it probably won't be the only time this season we're going to be on the back of a result like that. But I think we need to spend some time reflecting on how we are going to compete away from home in this league, because that is probably 3 outings now where we've not been very reassuring at all. We should have enough about us in the locker, really, given what we've been through as a team and a collective, to stay up this season, but not if we're going to be going to away games and losing 7-0, not really being in the game for 80% or just about nicking results from time to time, because this is a full-time league. This is one league below the Football League. We've got to compete. If we're in it, let's compete.
Tamworth looked good when they were playing it on the floor for that 10, 15, 20-minute spell after going 1-0 down. Players like Shakuna, I thought, during that spell as well, looked really good. He was kind of at the centre of every passing move that Tamworth did. By my count, 5 of the 7 goals were down Barnet's left, Tamworth's right-hand side, and even making that change with Sundari coming on and coming in at right back, it didn't stem the flow of goals. And it got to the point where every time they went down that side, you feared that there was going to be another goal to go in. And it almost, the most worrying thing for me is like, there didn't seem any way to stop it.
that's really the most negative thing that's ever happened since Andy Peaks has come in, and everything has been. It hasn't put a foot wrong, has it? Really, to be perfectly honest. And is it just one of those days? We're still adjusting to the life in the National League. It's a huge step up, and it's just monumentally such a step up. So is this a learning curve? Do you have to you just draw a line underneath? We can't dwell on it. It's happened now. You move on to the next game. Another tough game with coming up with Eastleigh, but had 7 days to reflect on it and a few training sessions to have a look into it and try and sort it out. And that's how we've got to look on it. Really, we can't dwell on it. If we're here, I don't know, towards the end of the season, and we've had, or even halfway through the season, and we've had 5 or 6 of these tight results, then then you have to start thinking, right, well, what's going on? But let's just see how the players react to it. One thing I would say is that they didn't stop trying. That was one thing that you could definitely notice, that the Tamworth players did not stop trying. Even then, there was a chance near the end where we could have scored. So credit to the players that they didn't stop trying. And perhaps it's just a gap of class and quality on the day that we just couldn't match.
I do remember as well. I don't know at what point in the second half it was, but there was a point where Jordan Cullinane-Liebert was like marshalling his fellow defender, so to speak, and still organising, still talking, which good to see there is still the professional pride there, even when you've had a bit of a hiding from the opponent.
The long and short of it is, if that result happens another couple of times this season, as long as we get the points on the board, then it really doesn't matter, because it is about learning this season. It's just then what that then does to the confidence and the sparring effect that can then have. I think the one thing I would say for me is that as long as we do 2 things, and that we do learn every week, and then, as Graham's already said, is that we continue to give our all and continue to try. And if my previous point came across as being negative, the point of it is that we've just got to adjust our mindset a little bit. Otherwise, we're going to end up in a mire where we are just going to be happy to be turning up every week. We can't do that. But we need a lot of points to stay up. There's 24 teams in the league, so that means we've got to get. 50 points won't, if you go on last season's table, won't keep us up. So that's a lot of wins that we've got to get from somewhere. We've just got to keep our heads up.
Would it be a good opportunity to maybe look back at August as a whole and get your grades for how the month's gone for you both? So obviously, I would imagine the last result against Barnet might have quite a heavy input into this, but let's see how we get on. So Tamworth did end August in the relegation zone on goal difference after their 6 matches. That's interestingly compared to National League South champions from last season, Yeovil, who won half of their games in August. Just as a little comparison between the North and South champions. We did always say this was a hard month on paper with some pretty formidable opponents. Are there any matches, Brett, where looking back now, you think that was a real opportunity missed, or really needed to get more points out of that?
Yeah, I'd say Sutton, because first game of the season, that Sutton team didn't even know each other. You're talking like 2 or 3 minutes away from 3 points there, and then all of a sudden, at the end of this month, we're not in the relegation zone. We've probably got a goal difference of -8 rather than -9. We're a good 4 or 5 places higher than where we are. Obviously, Hartlepool was disappointing as well in terms of the results, not the performance, the result, and the way that result then came was disappointing. But at the same time, I think Sutton is the one where you look back and you say, that really is the one there that's probably going to hurt us.
Any different ones for you, Graham?
Probably not, to be perfectly honest. That Sutton one, that is 2 points dropped. And then the Hartlepool one, we should have at least got a point out of that, at least. I think probably the others are they're all justified, really. We should have more points on the board. But probably theoretically, maybe 4 at best. I think it's an okay start. If you take away Saturday, I'd have probably said it was a fairly good start. I'd probably just say it's an okay start now. But we're not bottom of the league. We've got points on the board, so there's something to work with, isn't there? Something to build upon. The 6 games into the season, you can't really write too much about where you are on the table or anything like that at the moment.
tale for me of August seems to just be about like the fine margins that you think against Sutton, if Tamworth defend one last attack, potentially they get all 3 points. Hartlepool, that chaotic series of play after the long throw in and it hits the bar and hits the post. You think on another day, maybe that goes in and you do get an extra point. I would probably say another point or two on the board would have been good, just because then you sort of stay at least a point per game. Although I think at the end of the season, it will probably take more than that because York stayed up on 53, didn't they, last season? Is there anything, Brett, that you've learned, do you think, that you didn't know before the first game of the season?
I don't want to say that we are as bad as I thought we were, or I didn't realise we were as bad as we are, because I did. I think maybe the league is as competitive as I imagined it. I think, if anything, the one thing that I have probably learned, and I took this away from the York game, because this is definitely not the case from when we were in the old conference before, is just the pull factors now that these full-time clubs have got. We spoke to the York City podcast, and they were talking about how they now look nationally for their talent. I think that's the one thing I would say that I've learned that's different about this league now, is that actually the pulling power for this league now is, well, it dwarfs that of even the league below. That's the difference, I think.
Anything from you, Graham, that you've learned from August?
Just that just that the level of quality is even greater than I probably imagined in terms of the teams. It does at times feel like you're playing at Football League teams. It's just a huge step up.
Right then, so I would like you both to give me a grade from A to F for Tamworth's August. Brett, would you like to go first?
I will say a D, because we haven't been terrible. If we had probably lost just by 3 or 4 on Saturday, I'd probably be saying maybe a C. But obviously a D insinuates that there's still work to do, and there is still work to do. So I think, yeah, the D. And it's being realistic as well. I wasn't expecting to come out of August probably with many more points than we have. But we need to obviously work on what we know we need to work on quick to go into September. Because actually, September, October, we could come out of October having had some really positive results looking at the fixtures, providing we work on what we need to.
Big months ahead, you're right. Graham, what about you, grade-wise?
Exactly the same, grade D. I think I probably would have said C. It sounds the same as Brett, but I would have said C, depending on what that Barnet result was, because it had been, if we'd got a draw there, definitely would have said a C, what I predicted. But yeah, I suppose it's got to be a D. We've definitely been able to compete at times, but then yeah, there's just so much learnings to take on board at the moment. Yeah, it's just more that really, I think, and then we'll see what we can do for the games in September. But for me, it has to be a D at the moment, just kind of where we're at, which I think is fine.
I will also go for a D grade just to complete the set of 3. Same reasons, really. I think had the Barnet defeat not even been as heavy as it was, I think maybe a C minus. It's just looking at the table already, and then that gap on the goal difference. Yeah, work to be done, but I'm not too despondent at the moment. Next up then for Tamworth is another away trip, this time to Eastleigh, who are second in the table and have won 4 of their 6 matches, so should be a doddle. They've had 11 seasons in this division, which is more than I thought, actually. So they're relative veterans at this level. But they did lose to top of the table Gateshead on Saturday with a 90th minute goal conceded. Graham, what would you change for this? And keep it brief.
Not letting 7 maybe is probably a starting point, but no, joking aside. I think get back to doing the basics. That's what we need to do, isn't it? I guess. And that's probably what his remit will probably be for Saturday. Get back to doing the basics and try and hit them on the break, which doesn't sound very ambitious. But I think when you come off the result of that, then not conceding really does matter at the moment. So for me, yeah, it's really difficult coming off the back of that result. How to actually approach it, but just shut up shop really. They're second in the table. We're playing away from home. Come off the back of that result. Let's build some confidence from last Saturday by just making sure that we're resilient and we win our battles. If we do that, then yeah, let's see where we can take it from there really and see what we can do. Because we've got the players that can do it when we get the opportunity. But yeah, we've got to just make sure that we do all the basics right on Saturday. And yeah, I think we'll see a reaction personally. I think we will see a reaction.
What about you, Brett? What do you want to see?
I'd like us to not lose heavily. They've scored a lot of goals. It's at their place, which is a long way to go. So I'd just like to see us go there and put in a positive performance. That's probably all I'd ask for after Saturday. They conceded late on Saturday, so that will have an impact for their game mentality, I'm sure. Look, it's a long way to travel. Let's make use of that extra time together then as a team and really focus on the game plan and how we're going to be effective down there, because I think if we're not careful, given what they've got going forward, then we could be in a hot mess, really. We could go there and lose, and that's not necessarily a bad result. I think Saturday's all about the performance and the answer from Saturday.
Yeah, I think this game very much in the category of anything is a bonus kind of away fixture. Right, predictions time. Won't be any surprise that none of us predicted a 7-0 defeat and none of us predicted a loss, interestingly. So it's as we were in the predictions mini league, with me on 7, Graham on 5, Brett on 1. And a reminder, it's 1 point for a correct result and 3 points for a correct scoreline. So Eastleigh away, I will go first. I am going to go for a 3-0 defeat. Possibly the memories of Saturday still etched in my memory a little bit with that one. Graham, what about you?
I'm going to go Eastleigh 2, Tamworth 0. I feel like we'll probably hold out for a while, and then they will probably score a goal and then get one near the end, something like that. But I think we'll probably be an overall better performance. And to be honest, if that's the case, I will be happy with that. I think it's just that's a very tough ask off the back of that. If it's just some sort of reaction and it's a positive display, then I think that's all you can kind of ask for, really. You know the players are going to put in a shift and they try really hard because they always do. You can't fault them for that. Absolutely not. But it's just, again, is it that level in class, that might just catch us out a little bit.
Any advance, Brett, on a 2-0 or a 3-0 defeat?
I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. I was actually going to say 2-0 as well, but I don't want to be following the trend. But I don't think we're going to keep them out, not with McCallum and the form that he started in and the form that he finished last season as well. I mean, I'm surprised, to be honest, that he's actually remained in the National League. But yeah, I can't see us keeping them out, which is fine. If we do react to Saturday, then who's to say we can't get a couple of goals? Who knows? Might be the time for Okafor to break his duck and then build on some performance.
I'd love it if Okafor scored a hat-trick. That would be brilliant. Good for him.
They've still got to go to Barnet and get something, and I would love it if we beat them. Love it!
We'll leave it there for this episode of the Tamworth FC Social podcast. Thank you for listening. You can follow us on social media at TFC Social Pod. If you enjoy the podcast, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel and give this episode a like. It really helps us grow our audience. Until next time, goodbye.